weather here that is probably going to be an unwilling participant in having his feet trimmed. They have overgrown quite a bit, so we're going to call this corrective trimming. How to correctively trim a goat that's hooves have missed a few too many trimmings in the past. But we will still use the same principles of trimming goats. We will start by trimming the part that has folded over underneath. We'll trim the wall of the hoof, then we'll trim the inside wall, and then the toe will probably need to be trimmed and the heel. So we will use the same principles on how to trim a goat, just like if it were not overgrown. But the thing to remember is that don't pressure and feel pressured. Your goat might be frustrated about this. You might end up getting frustrated and hot. Do what you can the first day, and you can always come back the next day or even the week after to work on it a bit more. So get the major portions maybe the first day, and then you can come back. So as you can see here, his hooves have grown over, and that is where the hoof rot can happen, and that you don't want that. So I'm going to start with my hoof pick here, and we're going to clean out what we can underneath, and we may have to trim a bit and then clean some more. So I'm trimming the outside hoof wall right now, that part that has come bent over, that's come underneath the hoof, and then I'm going to move to the inside between the toes and cut off that. If you do find that their hooves are very hard, it is easier to trim when they're moist. So if after a rainfall or something like that, that is always a good time to trim. But sometimes you just got to get it done. Remember, when you're trimming, your goal where it is even with like parallel to the coronary band of his foot. That's the end goal of how you want it trimmed. So this is a big portion that we're cutting off here. Got the outside hoof wall, inside, bit of his toe, and it's kind of bent over and in between his toes, so I'll cut off that as well. One thing I have noticed, and you may notice this, you'll have to just observe for yourself, but if I haven't trimmed for a while, it seems like I come to blood on their hoof a little bit quicker. But as you keep them trimmed, it seems like the blood recedes up higher into the hoof. And so just again, be aware of that. If you haven't trimmed in a while, don't go too deep at the beginning. Just go slow, don't go too deep, because you don't want them to bleed. Working on the back hooves can be a little more tricky just because they're most likely going to be kicking quite a bit more. So wear your gloves and just be prepared that they're going to be moving a lot. Hold on tight to your nippers and the goat hoof. So this hoof has grown out quite a bit. But again, it's the same principles. It's the same principles that we're doing before. We're going to just cut off the long portions. We're just cutting off this excess part that's long. On the outside, then we move to the inside. This is really tough. Dig out. His on the heel here, the soft portion, we'll clip that off a bit to make it even. And we'll move to the other side. If you are correctively trimming, just remember to set the foot down and take a step back and look what you're doing to make sure that you are getting it parallel, that you're cutting parallel to that coronary band. So it always not only gives you and the goat a breather, you can step back and look, okay, am I trimming the way I need to be? The Dewclaws on this goat as well are pretty long, so I will be trimming. They are sticking out pretty far here, and so I'll be trimming on that as well. So that the material, that the Dewclaws are made up of the same, they feel like the heel of the hoof. Work on it bits at a time, and you can also, don't forget to trim the Dewclaws as well, that's a part of it. This Dewclaw is very long here. We're gonna cut off pretty hard the outer portions here. Goats don't like to stand on 3 feet, so that is one reason they fight it so much. This is not something they enjoy, so be patient with them. And yourself, if you're new to trimming, be patient. Give yourself and your goat some grace. And if it is helpful, find someone that will help you. Then it may even be, if you don't have a milk stand to work with or something to put them in, have somebody help you and tip them over on their side. That may be easier. So that's something to try if you're getting frustrated with how they're acting tied up. On overgrown hooves, you may find that's where the hoof rot has come in. So be aware of that. That's what you're looking for as well. Hoof rot is going to be white or grayish in color, and it's going to stink a lot. And in areas that are very high in moisture, they're the areas that will be affected, your goats will be affected the most in those areas. Last hoof. We survived. I've survived. When you're trimming your goat's hooves, another thing to check and just be aware of, just take an overall general body condition, a check of how they are over their whole body. That might be like looking in their eyes and checking to see if they're anemic. It will be looking at if they have, lice or any parasites on their bodies, and just kind of doing an overall body check to see their condition. That will be another thing. And many people, if you have quite a few goats, that might be the time that you'll want to also, if you do vaccinations, you can do it at that time. So it's like less handling. You just get it all done all at once. If you do have a lot of goats that you're doing a big herd of them, you can do all of the vaccinations and anything that you need to do all at once. And you can mark them with a marking stick to say, okay, this one's done, and mark it, and then move on to the next goat. So although you don't want your goat hooves to get to the point of where they are out of control and not at all in a good state, sometimes it just happens. But really, as you're trimming them, it'll be the same process that you would with a goat that you've been trimming regularly. So you'll trim the outside wall, trim the inside wall, make sure make sure the toe isn't too long, and then the heel as well, and make sure that it is parallel to the coronary band when it's finished, when you finished trimming it completely. If you haven't watched my How to Trim a Goat's Hoof, be sure to watch that. It'll talk about what to do if it starts bleeding, and it'll give you another view of how to trim a goat's hooves. So go out and trim those goat hooves. You can do it.